Okay, welcome to Into the Channel podcast, primarily about women's football. I'm your host, Dino Decespedes, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engle. What's up, man?
I'm feeling fantastic, buddy. 22 weeks down. A mere 5 to go. Ooh, got scared of the math there. The 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th. 4 to go.
Math is scary. Math stays scary.
Especially this late.
You almost had it. I mean, there's technically, you were just counting the quarterfinals, so it's just, extension of the regular season. So I think it plays.
Sure.
Maybe that's a good bellwether for, quenching some thirst around these parts.
Let's have a beverage to celebrate me being the Chicago Stars of math.
Cheers.
Cheers to you. Cheers to the football. Cheers to a good season thus far.
Oh, yeah. 4, maybe 5 weeks left. Who's counting?
Some amount of weeks left. Games will be played. Another trophy to be lifted. We got a lot going on over here.
Yeah, man, for sure. Well, we're not going to go through the full slate because I think as we approach the home stretch of the season, things start to really kind of squeeze and get truncated. So this episode, we're actually just going to focus in on the current top 5, no pun intended, of the NWSL table, who makes up that top 5? The KC Current, Washington Spirit, Gotham FC, your Seattle Reign, our Orlando Pride, and then we'll cut it off there for this week because I think there's a lot of juicy stuff there. Some intertwining, some teams playing each other, some teams maybe potentially could be playing each other down the stretch. So a lot of fun stuff to get into. Mr. Grand Angle, where you want to get started?
Well, we're not going to do numerical order today. We're gonna thumb our nose at the typical order that we like. And you said it yourself. Seattle Reign FC currently sitting in 4th place. Orlando Pride currently sitting in 5th. And you know what that means. If the playoffs started today, these teams would be playing each other in the first round.
Can't believe it. Take a shot at home. Take a drink at home. If you take a sip at home, if you had Seattle as your 4th ranked team coming into the season and Orlando as their 5th ranked team coming into the season, Seattle potentially hosting a playoff match. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. So 2 big wins though for both of these sides. Different types of wins. I'll say, not a lot in common between Orlando's big W and Seattle's big W. But that was a home game, right? You were there?
I was certainly there.
Tell us about it.
It looked bleak there for a little while. Won't lie to you. In the first half, it was just looking real sketchy. North Carolina Courage had nearly 70% of the possession. Seattle Reign FC credited with 2 shots, neither of which on goal. And I just want to say, for the record, it does say 2 shots. The second shot was a near midfield attempt from Jess Fishlock when the ball kind of got cleared out there and fell to her feet, and she just had a go. Now, could the legend, the 2021 NWSL MVP, score that sometimes? I'm certain she could. But not with consistency, I'm guessing, in that spot with the ball just kind of coming up on you and you're like, whoa, I can have a go here. So it was really kind of one shot on goal. And even that first shot that I believe was a Fishlock redirect didn't really ever have a chance of going in and was not on target. So it didn't look great in the first half. And Laura Harvey told us in the post-match presser that she gave them a bit of a, quote, telling off in the halftime talk. And she said she liked the way they responded.
They definitely responded, So I really liked just seeing. Well, to rewind back for that save in the first half, the Claudia Dickey save on the Monaco point blank header was really impressive. Kind of like reminded me immediately of just the conversation around Dickey more recently. I thought North Carolina looked like the better team. They looked physically like the more adult team. Like it just looked like everybody in North Carolina looked taller and stronger. But credit to Seattle. They hung in. They didn't really produce much. I think they end the match with 0.23 XG. You mentioned it, 3 shots, 1 on target. A little bit of a riddle, 1 goals. Shot on target, 2 goals. Pretty incredible. Yeah, you can't get more efficient than that. If you could average 2 goals for every shot on target, you're cooking. I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
One bright spot though, Ainsley McCammon, 18 years old, came in and did some stuff. Her footwork really kind of stands out. Like on the second goal, like she just kind of hit like a fake step and a pivot, and then like whipped it around to kind of get the ball upfield. And I was like, what was that? That was very, very quick. And then she was also involved in the own goal. She gets the ball to Adamas and kind of like nutmegs Weatherholt after another kind of like little okey doke move. I mean, just kind of some slick movement from McCammon, and kind of like, I don't know, a pretty exciting prospect if you have a player that can kind of produce like that. And then to have her involved in kind of both of those big plays, got to be huge for her confidence.
I think so. And Laura Harvey in the post-match presser again spoke about that a little bit and said that she has told Ainsley McCammon multiple times to, in their kind of discussions, so she wasn't shy about saying it to us in the press, that she thinks McCammon is going to have some ups and downs and has like a runway before she becomes a regular player in this league. She's 18 years old. She is a good prospect, but she doesn't appear to. And this is me spitballing now. That first part was what Harvey said about how she's going to have some ups and downs and has a long road. Me personally, I view that as McCammon is a good prospect. She's not one of those Claire Hutton, Jordan Bugg young prospects that you just drop in and say, okay, you're in the starting lineup now. I don't think Harvey sees that in the cards for her, but you're exactly right. She has those flashes where I think in my notes watching that, I said, man, she is a stylish type of player, that she kind of has those little quirks to her game that she can fool defenders, great footwork, and is kind of able to move around. And you're totally right. You said it perfectly. That's an interesting prospect for a midfield that could use a little bit of style.
Yeah, and a little bit of like just very kind of creative, like does stuff that is not obvious, and which I think is really, really interesting. It's like we see this with like next generational players. I forgot who was commenting on it this weekend. It was one of the color commentators, but they were talking about the difference between Casey this year and Orlando last year. And I think the color commentator was making the case. There's just been so much tactical evolution from one season to the next. And it's like, you see a player like McCammon, you're like, oh, well, those are new things that I've never seen before. It's like kind of like, new playground type moves that the rest of the league has to adjust to. But yeah, I think that makes total sense. You definitely see the flashes. You don't see the full all around game. I wasn't watching, her that closely, every single minute, but pretty exciting nonetheless. And a huge win. The other part that I liked about it is like, Darlene gets the goal, gets called back for offsides. Quick side note. I wish we would stop doing this thing where we're like, oh, actually, perhaps maybe appears just a step offside when we could clearly see that it's offside. Like, it's like we don't have to like
very obviously,
like let everybody down. So sorry to everyone, disappoint everyone that thought it was a goal and now it's not. It's like we're big boys and big girls out here, or big people out here, and we're okay. We don't need to just soften the blow.
Yeah,
offside either way,
is offside.
Offside's offside. So Darlene scores, gets the goal called back, and then Hannah Bedford comes back and just flips the whole game 180 degrees. And I mean, for Seattle, you mentioned what Laura Harvey said happened at halftime, but that happens a lot, where coach yells at some players. But for Seattle to come back and respond against a team that they're like really, up against it in the playoff race, I don't know that I've seen that since we've been covering the league.
There have been moments where a 1-0 deficit felt insurmountable just in these last two seasons. Like, obviously, Reign have been one of the more successful clubs in league history. But yeah, these last two seasons, I mean, it's felt that way. And I've complained, I guess you could say, or just kind of assessed that the attack has not looked very dangerous at times. But my question that I asked Harvey directly post-match was, can you win a playoff game like that? I noted to her that, Reign had 80 touches in the opposition half. North Carolina Courage had 222 touches in the opposition half. But Seattle Reign was still able to muster 15 touches in the opposing penalty box, and North Carolina Courage only had 18. So that was still very close in the match. So there was some efficiency there. And she thought about it for a second and said yes. And then I was like, oh, damn, I set Laura Harvey up for a yes or no question. So she's only going to say yes to me. But then she expounded and basically just said, when you give up some space, when you allow your opponent to come at you and give up that territory, as she described it, they want to do that because they want to then get out and run in transition, because you have Curry and Huerta, and then you have, Fishlock's passing ability deep, and then you have the speed of Darlene. You have Heidema, who's like a big body in the box, who you could center it to. She mentioned Coco Mondesir in that mix too. So she thinks they can, and she's fine with that. And she described that counter press transitional style to how she felt about the 23 team that I think scored 76% of their goals in transition. And she said she's glad to kind of see that element back in the attack.
I love that. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And as you come down the stretch, I think teams are going to need, to kind of like really, really craft that identity. Be like, this is what we know we want to do. We want to come in here and do this. If we can do it, we've got a shot. If we can't, we'll see you next year. I think that's kind of like the mindset for a lot of teams, except maybe two, right? But I want to scoot ahead. You kind of tease that potential 4 or 5 matchup. That would be a super fun matchup. Either way, we're going to get this matchup, Orlando versus Seattle, to close the season, match week 26. So that'll be fun. Hopefully there's some stakes tied to that as well. But Orlando also gets a big 2-1 victory this weekend on the road. They go to San Diego. In my notes, I wrote Orlando's last stand, basically. And there was a point in the match where that really, really became what we were watching. And I think the thing that I walked away with was this was a total team performance. Both of the goals, tons of touches, tons of movement, tons of collaboration and cohesion to make each of them happen. And I think this team came out and responded in a really, really big way.
Yeah, I mean, and the goal by Dudinha from San Diego, it's a howler from Morehouse, and you give it up right after Ovalle's first goal in the NWSL, first goal for the club, and it's just like, oh God, it's a momentum killer. It felt like a momentum killer right away. And it was another one of those things. I know we talked about the last match they played where there were some moments where I was like, this team, we just cannot get a break right now. Like, we don't get any breaks anymore. And then the Dudinha goal, and I was like, oh my God, this is never going to end. But they hung tough, man. I think it's a good lesson. Like you said, they were playing team ball. You got to do something up front. I liked the combination. It was Doyle, Watt, and Lemos. And I like that combo up there. Angelina's in the mix up there as well. So they were definitely scrappy. A lot more questions than answers for San Diego, but we're talking about the top 5 teams, so we don't have to bother talking much about San Diego. But a win is a win is a win at this point for Orlando.
Huge win. And you talked about that Ovalle goal. The bummer about the Anna Morehouse situation was she started the action that unlocked the Ovalle goal. So it was a very simple action. It was Morehouse to Emily Sams, like a quick little inside out move. She gets it out to Oyane, who basically is the connector to the pass of the final third, gets it up to Ali Watt, and very smartly gives Ali Watt a ton of real estate to run onto, to kind of like basically say, okay, Kennedy Wesley wasn't in a terrible position, but as soon as you give Ali Watt that space, now it's like Ali Watt's just going to stretch, that she's going to pick up a step or a step and a half on Wesley, and it basically creates the look to get the ball back, across to Ovalle. So a really cool team goal there. But yeah, I mean, a kind of a backbreaker to have Morehouse give it away. And what was crazy was on the goal, she kicks it to Sams that starts it, and then when she on the howler, Sams is right in the same spot. She looks at her, looks her off, and then kicks it to nobody. Just it's a total wrong area. Either way, Dudinha, evens it, and then credit to Orlando. They basically got that second one, like just a much needed second one. And I talked about the team performance nature of this one. So I jotted it down in my notes. An Emily Sams interception. She gets it to Angelina, to Lemos, to Ovalle, to Angelina, back to Oyane. And then you can hear Oyane is now running up the right-hand side. She doesn't even have the ball yet. She's kind of like running onto the ball, Oyane is. And you could hear Seb Hines, Allie. And Oyane, sight unseen, whips the ball upfield, and she outkicks Ali Watt, but it curls back around, finds its way to Carson Pickett, and that's the goal. So You even have Seb
That's
Hines
awesome.
involved in this second goal. It's like literally every resource that we have to get a goal, including Seb Hines just screaming, affecting the play in real time. And your boy was pumped. I watched the replay today and I pumped my fist almost as vigorously as I did in real time watching the goal.
That's outstanding. I didn't hear Seb on the broadcast, and I felt like it was a beautiful pass to Pickett. So it's fortuitous. And speaking of getting some breaks, maybe this could be a breaking point where they snap out of the fever of all this bad luck and just like rough outings and all that, and just kind of get going. I mean, we talk about it. We love joking about like sports cliches and stuff. The bones of the team still have that championship DNA. I don't think DNA's in bones. I don't know anything. This is a YouTube show, so I'm an amateur scientist at this point. But like they like the team still the structure of it, the players know how to win. They know what it feels like. So hopefully this is a good omen for the rest of the season.
They know how to win and they really don't want to lose. And I think to beat them, you're going to have to beat them. Like you get the taste of it. And like, I don't know, this team's not going to roll over. And I think that was evident in the 75th minute when I kind of joked about Orlando's last stand, but this was literally a last stand. I think you've got Ascanio up there. You've got like, the ball in this crazy dangerous area. The sequence goes an Anna Morehouse save. Then Zara Shavoshi, who was really good, 22-year-old from Canada.
Yeah.
Really good in the match, really good in the sequence. First kind of like gets a little knock on it to kind of like clear it out of some space. Then gets a huge block. Then gets a second huge block. The ball kind of squirts back out again. And then you get a diving Anna Morehouse save. I think it was Kenza Dali maybe who struck it. And that's in the 75th minute, clinging to a 2-1 lead. And those are four, I'm not going to say they're great looks, but four real looks. The last one was a really good look. You need the full Anna Morehouse stretch to stop it. And that just kind of felt like Orlando being like, we're not just going to kind of like we're not going to not make the playoffs, and we're not going to just basically show up to get rolled. Let's give this like an honest go. Getting Ovalle in there to score, maybe softens the Barba Banda blow. Like maybe kind of like instills a little bit more belief than was there after the Banda injury. And I think this team, they're not going to make it easy. They'll be extremely competitive if they make the playoffs, no matter who they go up against. And either way, they just needed this. They needed this result, and they went out and got it.
Yeah, for sure. And like we don't talk much about the CONCACAF W Champions Cup on this podcast because there's enough football going around. But they had a 2-0 loss to Club America today. But obviously, fairly rotated squad. I mean, Wahane's out there, Sams is out there, Shavoshi, Pickett, Doyle, Yates, Chando is playing. But I mean, really, I think they gotta be locked in to the league season at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have a very clear look at a home playoff match. And so they have to push for that. And so, I mean, especially they're playing at Houston this week, which, we've discussed. There's no easy task, but the Houston Dash coming off a pretty bad loss. And the team right above them, as we mentioned, Seattle Reign FC, they're going to Jersey to play those Bats. So this is an opportunity where Orlando could kind of grab that 4 spot.
I mean, who knows? Orlando's just 2 points behind Gotham. So, I mean, there's still 4 matches. That's an eternity to just make up 2 points. Gotham's a pretty healthy goal differential advantage. So Orlando's not going to catch them along that dimension. But
right,
I agree with you. I think the jockeying definitely matters. You want to have that home playoff match, 2-3, 2 seed, 3 seed matters for sure. If you get the 3 seed instead of the 4 seed, you get to avoid Kansas City until the absolute final. So there's a lot of machinations definitely at play. But I do want to scoot ahead here. You mentioned it, Reign FC heading to our old stomping grounds in the Northeast to take on Gotham. Number 3 versus number 4. Big showdown. I feel these both of these teams won this past weekend in very, very different ways. We talked a lot about Seattle. What did you see from Gotham?
We're starting to get into bulldozer territory. They look really good. They look like they're peaking at a very fortuitous time, and they look good all over the field. I mean, they battered Portland. Yeah. Didn't have a shot in that game. And we've talked about the Thorns. We like the Thorns. I mean, they haven't been exactly great lately. Let me just take a look at this. The last 5 matches, Portland Thorns have 5 points. They got that road win versus Racing Louisville, and then they have the draw versus Chicago and the draw versus San Diego, and then they have the 3-0 loss to Gotham and the loss to Utah Royals, and they just haven't looked great. On the absolute flip side, if you do the last 5 match table, Gotham FC sitting at the very top because they've scored 11 goals in the last 5, and Kansas City Current has scored a mere 10 goals in the last 5. I just think the Bats look super dangerous right now.
They do look very dangerous. The attacking players are starting to definitely develop some chemistry. I really loved, I want to talk a little bit about the Rose Lavelle goal, and then I'll actually go to reverse. But the Rose Lavelle goal where Jaden Shaw, I mean, I think I watched that 50 times. I couldn't quite figure out how Shaw was able to get the ball to Rose. But the cool part was that, so you have Jaden Shaw, like a player with great vision and the accuracy to be able to put it anywhere. She's got 3 great players to go to, like Astaire Deepest, Midge Purse, Level, or Rose ahead. And like the pass to Rose, there was only one other player in the building that knew that was possible, and it was Roosevelt. They were like that connectivity between those two. You don't usually see that. That play was really incredible and really emblematic of like all of the things that Gotham is going to be able to do once they figure it out. They're just absolutely loaded from an offensive standpoint.
100%. Yeah, it was a beautiful one touch. Mandy Freeman had a great pass that was right onto Midge Purse's forehead in between 2 defenders for the opener. I mean, this team, they do all the stuff. They defend, they can play physical, they have great goalkeeping, and they can dribble, pass, and shoot. And it's just like it's stars all over the place. And then they have this look about them. They were really feeling themselves like at a couple points in the match. Through most of the match, Jalen Howell hit just an absolute laser off the crossbar from like 30 yards out. Midge had a great curling shot that just hit the left post. Like they were like, that was toward the end of the match. They're just firing on all cylinders. We've talked about it before. This is another team that just has winning DNA. Even if, they don't have a ton of players left over from the championship. Obviously, they still have Astaire and Midge Purse, who was the MVP of that championship match a few years ago. But, they have a ton of international winners. They have a ton of leaders. And Jaden Shaw, I don't know, is she used to playing with a bunch of winners and a bunch of leaders? Yeah, she is. I mean, she played for that. She was young, but she played for that Shield-winning San Diego Wave team, and her time winning the Women's Gold Cup for USA. Like she knows how to fit into the team, and it looks like she has her confidence back. If I could throw out another sports cliche.
I mean, the fit is just off the charts. They were talking about the telecast too, like her ability to see and deliver is awesome. And I think they talked about how much pressure there was offensively, and we did the same thing. So, oh my, she's going to go to North Carolina and like, she'll be featured and everything's going to kind of go through her. And like, now is she going to be at the 10? She's going to be scoring goal. Like we did that too. And it didn't, the complete opposite happened. Nothing good happened. I'm glad you brought up Midge Purse because she gets the big goal 10 minutes into the match. The first thing I think about is great friend of the pod at Gretchen Little 6817, who said actually as a comment on our last video, and I quote, "I don't make many predictions, but a sneaking suspicion tells me this weekend may be Midge Purse's post-injury breakout game and motherfucking quote."
Let's go, Gretchen.
Let's take a sip to Gretchen. Cheers to you.
Of course.
What a prediction.
Gretchen, amazing prediction. What an absolute legend Gretchen is. Always thank you for dropping knowledge. And she totally nailed it. This did feel like Purse looked way more like herself than she has since that catastrophic injury, which, I mean, just off the top of my head, feels like it may have been 18 months ago. It's been a while.
No, it's been a good while. And I think I responded to Gretchen's comment. I was like, yeah, I think it's coming too. I totally agree. Well, let's see if we see something in the next few weeks here. No, but she had it right on the money. That was the breakout game. And now 2 players, Midge Purse and Roosevelt, are players that, you know how great they are. You know what they're capable of, but you also know that they're for different reasons, kind of like trying to sort out their role on the team, either through health or just moving parts. And to see both of them, I think they said that this was Roosevelt's first match in the NWSL where she had a goal and an assist. I mean, that's incredible. And I think she just was the player of the match for sure. And probably just edged out Midge Burst. Both of those players were absolutely fantastic, and not players that were playing anywhere near this ballpark the beginning of the season, the first third of the season. So now if like this is what we're going to get from Gotham, I mean, this team, can absolutely compete with any team, in the league, down the stretch. I'm not sure. I think they'd be favored against anybody except those top two. So in the playoffs, I think you've got to give Gotham the edge against any other team that they'd be facing, again, if the playoffs started today.
I think so. I think that's totally fair. Let's do a little bit of tiers talk as we get down to the other teams in the top 5, because I think there's a little meat on that bone. Let me just tell you, vindication. Speaking of comeback stories, when we mentioned the Reign, Midge Purse injured her ACL in March of 2024, and I said I thought it may have been 18 months. So if you go March 2024 to September of 2025, we're back, baby. I can do math. That is roughly 18 months. Almost as triumphant as Midge Purse coming back from a catastrophic injury and playing great like that. So glad I can feel what it feels like to come back from a devastating loss like
from
that.
a 1-0 deficit to win 2-1.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Love it.
My bad math earlier was the equivalent of me injuring my ACL.
Well, what do you want to do? Do you want us to do some tiers? Because I've got.
Well, who else do we got? We should probably talk about that team sitting at the top of the table.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the last two teams.
The last two teams, like Bay and Chicago, or?
No.
The final
two teams
okay.
in the top 5 that we have not covered.
Okay. Quick tiers talk. I don't think these teams are in the same tier. I think the Kansas City Current are absolutely in their own tier.
Yes, I agree.
So obviously Kansas City, they get the 4-1 victory over Chicago in a game that they didn't need in any way, shape, or form, and represented Chicago's final throes of this season as they get eliminated. That makes it 15 straight unbeaten for KC, 13 wins over that stretch. I mean, the goals in this one, like the Bia goal specifically. I mean, Dabinia just starts it off the first 10 minutes. Like, all right, well, let's just get out ahead and let them know what time it is with this one, which I love. I mean, just the message sent there was incredible. But Chewinga, to do that in the middle of the park, the 2 touches, the little kind of like pirouette, the stinging ball to Bia, not the one to get it to her, the one that to open her up and like give her that space. And then the sliding finish from Bia to tuck it into the far corner of the net, like with the shot went faster than the camera. Like that's how like the ball was struck with some ferocity. It was like when the main shot doesn't keep up, like you have to see the replay to see actually what happened. Unbelievable from Bia. And I think like the power, the precision, the stretch, like the audacity there, and then like just the diversity in attack. It's Dabinia, it's Chewinga feeding Bia in the center of the park. Like Cooper had an off game. It's just like it doesn't matter what happens. This team really can just hurt you, like without the ball, without controlling the match, without any kind of like rhythm. Like they just really can just flip it and really kind of like break whatever it is that you were trying to do.
100%. And this is the last time I'll mention the Laura Harvey press conference, but when she was talking about a transitional style, she had said, look at Kansas City. They don't even want to have the ball. They want you to have the ball and run at them, and then they'll take it from you and then kill you on the press. And speaking of their press, though, they can high press you, like you said, in a diversity of attack. That's what led to that Dabinia goal in the first 7 minutes. And when they score in the first 7 minutes, obviously if they're playing like Spirit or Gotham, one of the better teams in the league, it's not over. But when they're playing one of those bottom half of the table or even mid-table teams, if Kansas City scores in the first 10 minutes, you're probably already dead. Like it's just impossible. It looks impossible to come back against this team that has tightened up its defense in such a way that has Lorena, who has the shot-stopping ability to make great saves. they can just create chaos when they press you, and then they're off to the races. And like you mentioned, all the skill that they have there, the speed and the smarts of Chewinga, the classiness and the style of Bia and Dabinia, and then you have Michelle Cooper either out muscling you or just getting to the end line and firing in crosses or ripping shots herself. They just look pretty much unbeatable. And so I'm with you. They are in a tier by themselves in this league right now. It's their double to win.
Absolutely. And I think like, I made a comment last year about thinking Orlando was like probably like the best team in the world, which I definitely stand by. I think they were playing a brand of ball that would have been tough for anybody to compete with. I think this Kansas City Current side is on another level. I think if they play at their peak, there is no team on the planet that can compete with this team. Like, cannot compete with this team. They're bigger, cannot compete. They're bigger, they're physical. This is if they're at their best. This team is 18-2-2 in the NWSL.
It's pretty
like
good.
If I told you Barcelona was 18-2-2 in Liga F, you'd be like, okay, like, well, who got them those 2 times? Like, but it's not inconceivable. This team is 18-2-2 in the NWSL. Like, it's unfathomable what they're doing. And I think I'll make one other, proclamation. I feel like I should have went harder at Temwa Chewinga for being, ranked 17th in the Ballon d'Or, because if Chewinga sweeps the MVP, the Golden Boot, and they win the double, and she doesn't win the Ballon d'Or next season, I mean, that it sort of pushes it into absolute farce territory. Because I think I was talking, I can't remember who I was talking to in the comments, it might have been Philip, but I was like, how many players above Chewinga on that list you think Kansas City is saying, hey, I'll trade you Temwa Chewinga for Leah Williamson or Lindsay Heaps, or, I mean, no knock on these players. These are good players, but like, and I think I made the case. I don't think Kansas City is trading Temwa Chewinga for any of those players because of how special she is to that team, what she's able to do, and like how much of the off, like just basically everything that she unlocks. She's an incredible player. And I think she's on track now for maybe an MVP, maybe a Golden Boot, maybe a double. Like, what do we do at that point?
Yeah, it's all fair. I mean, and if you think about the styles clash, because now you got me thinking about it here. Now, obviously, Kansas City would never agree to it because it wouldn't behoove them in the scope of, chasing the playoffs. But if you were going to do it, you would want to do it in like sometime in October, where Barcelona has a few matches under their belt and they're like kind of, they're working themselves into the season, and an NWSL team is in their peak form too, when you would want these two teams to clash. It would be unbelievable. You think about Barcelona's possessive style versus KC's transitional style. Put it on DAZN and just watch the ratings flow in. Put Leanne on the broadcast too, obviously.
Let's go. Yeah. Well, I'll do some pre-game if we need to. We'll do the pre-game show.
Yeah, we'll do a show. Happen. Yeah. Hit us up.
Pre-game, post-game. Yeah, we'll make it work. Anywho, Washington Spirit, the second tier, the last team of our big 5 that we haven't hit. They also get a big win this weekend over the aforementioned Houston Dash, 4-0, in a match that I think Houston didn't roll over in this one. They kind of were trying for big chunks of it. They just kind of weren't able to get a ton done. And that other side, they had a player by the name of Gift Monday that just was an absolute terror.
Yeah, slicing and dicing and getting the ball passed to her in perfect areas, and then she knew what to do with it every single time. Mm-hmm. The reason I wanted to talk tiers is I think because of the way Gotham is coming on, and how I've been talking about Washington Spirit for a while, and I say I've compared them to Barcelona in the sense of like they play like a Spanish side. I think I might put the Spirit and the Bats on the same tier. I think I would have KC on tier 1, and I think the two teams who I would not be surprised could get them in a 1-game sample, I think it would be either of these two teams because of the way, like I was just talking about with Barcelona playing a possessive style. I think, if you can if you can avoid absolute disaster and you have a goalkeeper who could stand up to some pressure, obviously the Spirit have Kingsbury, the Bats have Ankanchan Berger. I think you could beat KC in a one-game sample, but this domination over Houston Dash, I'm so glad you pointed it out. I thought Dash were fine. You're just completely outclassed. And their 31-year-old veteran American goalkeeper, Abby Smith, I don't think she played poorly either, and you still lost 4-0.
Yeah, she was good. I was like, all right.
Yeah,
She made plays, no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like Washington's attack, I mean, is just an embarrassment of riches. Like I put in my notes, you imagine having a game plan. These are their attacking options. Gift Monday, Trinity Rodman, Croy Bethune, Rose Kwasi, Sofia Cantore, Lacey Santos. And that's not to mention, your holding midfielders, maybe as of Hal Hirschfeld or Narumi Mura behind her. So it's like right there, you have like 8 or 9 really good options. I'm sure I'm missing another 1 or 2 that could squeeze in if need be. But I loved in this match Trinity Rodman, who missed Lacey Santos on the edge of the box, right in like that dangerous Lacey spot, like 5 minutes into the match. Totally whiffed, on the pass to her and kind of like was kind of down on herself. Just a few minutes later, comes back and hits Gift Monday with a perfect, ball. I think they play like 1-2, kind of like from 60 yards away, 70 yards away. Like they just are having fun, the two of them, and an absolute, perfect, exquisite ball to Monday, and then a ridiculously acute angle to kind of make the finish. Comically, like running in the keeper into like the last defender. I think it was Malia Berkeley for Monday to get the finish. But just love seeing Rodman come back, and like really hit that precision, after kind of like missing early, and then she just kind of was shot out of a cannon from there. Just that really unlocked her whole game.
Yeah, man. And how many sellies does each of those attacking players that you mentioned, they all just have to have like a Rolodex of celebrations on tap, because you just never know which one of them might end up with a brace or be, a threat for a hat trick, the way they pass the ball around. And, I thought Monday did not disappoint with any of the sellies, and like had like the different handshakes, like the LeBron level handshakes with like different players. But I mean, obviously incredible match for Monday. I think it's the fastest hat trick in the history of the NWSL. I think the announcers were saying it was like a minute or two faster than Benda's hat trick last year. So great game for her. She's the player of the match. Should be player of the week in the NWSL. Whatever it is, give her all the accolades. The audacity of Sofia Cantore to score that back heel for the dagger, the absolute dagger, maybe the second or third dagger, whatever we want to call it. They're just styling on the Dash at that point.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was, and Cantore was hungry. Like when she came in, she was running real fast, putting her hand up real high, waving it real hard, trying to get on the score sheet. And it ended up being like a simple movement, and confused the announcing team. That was pretty fun.
Wild.
The one thing I will say, I thought Washington, we mentioned Houston looked a little lively. I think Washington defensively, they do leave a little to be considered. There are lanes back there that should be taken advantage of. And I think, in a head-to-head versus the Gotham, I would be curious how that back line would kind of hold up, especially with like Washington, playing so open, so up and down. There's definitely going to be space for teams that can exploit it. And as you get to the playoffs, maybe not every team, will be able to hurt them, but a team like Gotham absolutely will be able to hurt them. That'd be an interesting matchup. And I think Gotham probably a better two-way team at this point. So I totally agree with you. Lumping those two teams in the same tier for different reasons makes a ton of sense.
I think so. Let's talk about clean sheet percentage. Now, obviously, there's a lot that goes into this. I'm glad you mentioned the defense. You tee this up perfectly. So we'll talk about the top 4. There's a tie for 4th between, coincidentally, Orlando Pride and Seattle Reign FC. Their clean sheet percentage this season is 27.3%. Washington Spirit is 3rd. They're at 36.4%. So pretty sizable jump there. The Bats, Gotham FC, 45.5%, sitting in second place. So again,
Wow.
another pretty good gap there. And number one, Kansas City Current, 63.6% of the matches played this year is a clean sheet. I believe that is 14 clean sheets. Lorena has 12 of them. Laurel Ivory has 2 of them. It's just a suffocating defense, and I just don't think it's a coincidence that the top 3 teams in the league have those top 3 clean sheet percentages.
We had talked about that. That's like, defensively, this is the way that teams have to be able to compete. If you can't defend, in this league in 2025, like you're really just kind of DOA. And I think just going through this Kansas City 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 straight clean sheets is unbelievable. They had 9 straight. Phenomenal. And Nadia Gomes, scores in this one to kind of break the streak. And if I'm Nadia Gomes and I scored the 11th goal against this KC Current side that's been ever scored this season, I'm pretty pumped. I'm not usually one to be like, you score 1 in a 4-1 loss, you kind of hang, but I'd be ecstatic if I kind of made that happen. The last quick little tidbit on KC Current, they've beaten every other team this season in the league already.
Nice.
When they beat Seattle, that kind of clinched it, because they kind of like avenged that dropping of points early in the season. But they have a win against every other team in the league. I just thought that was like really, really impressive. Just for the sole purpose, I mean, it's a competitive league, so like just that feat was like really something. But you take an extra step forward and say, now they're going to go to the playoffs, and it doesn't matter who they line up against. They've already beaten that team. Like that does a ton for you from a confidence standpoint.
That's a great call. And even getting 13 wins in this league,
crazy,
let alone against all 13 of your other competitors. That's pretty incredible in itself.
Yeah, they got 13 and plus 5 more, so they probably swept. I guess they swept at least 4 or 5 teams.
Had to.
Anywho, I think we did it, man. Anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
No, that's it. It's I think this was nice. It was a top 5, top 5 episode. Who are the 5 greatest teams in the NWSL? Dylon, you know the whole thing. But yeah, I think that was. I think we've done it, my good man.
Love it. All right, man. This has been another episode of Into the Channel. Thank you for watching, listening, hanging out. If you enjoyed the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, make sure you're kicking it with us each and every single week. Like, subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. We're on Patreon. We got ITC merch. We're on the socials, some of the socials. What else do we have? We've got a Linktree store. We've got a sick Orlando Pride gear. And now it's Orlando Pride season, baby. We're back. So go check that out. Go support your boys. You already know what time it is. Leave us a review over your favorite podcast app. Links all of our socials, except one, in the show notes of this episode. And a big thank you to my coach as well, Mr. Grand Engle, for no top 5 here. There's just a single tier at the very top of my ITC standings. And at the very top of that tier sits my guy. I appreciate you, bro.
Likewise, buddy. I mean, that's the good thing about tiers. You don't have to have 1 and 2. We're sitting at the top of it. I mean, if you're talking about women's football podcasts hosted by 2 dudes, I got to think that we are in the top tier, maybe even standing alone. Who knows? Many people are saying, but it is mostly because of you guys. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for always dropping knowledge in the comments. We always appreciate it. And we will see you all next time.